a muzzle flashing coming from the object in the individual's hand. And when I looked back, I could see the individual, and he was still standing with his left side to me. He started moving to my right, which would have been his left backwards. And at that point, I thought the individual was wearing a bulletproof vest. He had just shot my partner, and that he didn't want to go to jail. You know, I just didn't know.
Now we pick it up with Officer Ed McMillan.
I fired my weapon. Then as fast as I could, I took maybe 1 or 2 steps, and I started feeling myself falling backwards. And I fell down the stairs backwards. Actually, I fell off the stairs and landed on the sidewalk. And I was falling, and I was firing, and all I could remember is just trying to fire as fast as I could.
Kenneth Boss, like everyone else, is now wondering if he's going to live or he's going to die. Here are his words.
I saw Ed McMillan. He was on the left side of the vestibule, emerged, and just come flying off the steps all the way down. And at the same time, Sean Carroll is on the right-hand side, and he's coming down the steps. It was frantic. He's running down the stairs, and it was intense. He was just doing whatever he could to retreat off those stairs. And Ed's on the ground. Shots are still going off. I'm running. I'm moving. And Ed was shot. That's all I could see. Ed was firing his weapon. Sean was firing his weapon in the vestibule. I come running up. I came running up to Ed. I try to get to Ed. He's at this time, he's on the sidewalk. His legs are in front of him. His torso was back, slightly back, but up. He had his left hand on the sidewalk. His feet was in front of him, and he was pushing himself away from the stairs, and he was firing his weapon into the vestibule.
The situation is, in Officer Boss's words, intense. He sees muzzle flashes, the noise, the smoke. He hears the rumble of 9mm semi-automatic guns going off. A full 16 shots in less than 7 seconds, and he sees his partner come flying off the porch onto his back. He thinks his partner's shot. What would you think? What would you have done if you were in Officer Boss's place? Having less than 1 second to make your decision. Does he have a gun? Doesn't he have a gun? Is he shooting? What would you have done if you were Mr. Diallo? As we just said, things are getting intense. One thing to remember, this is all taking place in a matter of seconds. There's very little time to think, there's just time to react. Here are the words of Rich Murphy.
I looked inside the vestibule, and at that point, I got this sick feeling in my stomach, because when I looked, I seen who I now know to be Mr. Diallo just standing in the back, a little turned to his left with his arm pointed outward, and I seen a gun in his hand. I had like this empty feeling. I felt like I'm going to be hit. I'm going to be shot. I really can't describe in words what I felt. But I pulled my trigger, and I jumped out of the way as soon as I could. I believed I pulled the trigger twice. Later, when I got up the block, I don't know who was checking my gun, told me I fired 4 times.
Now back to Kenny Boss.
I see a gun. And I said to him, my God, I'm going to die. I fired my weapon, and I fired it. And I was pushing myself backwards, and then I jumped off to the left, and I was out of the line of fire. And all I could think was, I have to get to Ed McMillan. He's out there, he's shot, he's down.
I started to shoot his legs because I figured he's wearing a vest. And the only way to stop him is to take his legs out. Shoot his legs. I stopped firing, and I noticed my gun was empty. I reloaded. I did not fire again. I took cover behind the right step. I looked back into the vestibule, and the individual there with his head propped up against the wall, and there was an object in his right hand. When I reloaded my weapon, and I verified to the best of my capability that Eddie was all right, and he wasn't shot and killed. I had to address the situation of the individual in the vestibule. Believing the individual is still a threat because the object was still in his hand in a very close proximity, and I came up the steps. Slowly, I kept my firearm pointed in the direction of the individual. And then I reached down with my left hand, slowly slid the objects away from the individual's hands. And it felt soft. And I looked down in my left hand, and I seen it was a wallet. Where's the fucking gun?
What?
Where's the fucking gun?
What are you talking about?
At that point, I realized
What are you talking about? What do you mean there's no gun?
there was not a weapon, and I dropped it from my hand, and I started looking around to see where the weapon was. I did a quick search in the area for the firearm. I didn't find one. At that point, the individual was still moving on the floor, and he was breathing, and I told him, you know, don't die, don't die. Keep breathing. And I can hear Kenny Boss calling for an ambulance. And there came that point where the individual stopped breathing and he stopped moving. And at that point, I'm holding his hands, telling him to keep breathing. I just wanted to check his vitals. I was going to give him CPR. I put my hands in his chest. I don't know if I pumped once. I don't know if I pumped at all. You know, I just held his hand and I rubbed his face and I said, please don't die.
Sean was in the vestibule. I knew Sean was going to attend to Mr. Diallo. I knew that I knew that I had to get some help. And when I saw the wallet and the weapon, I was distraught. I thought I was going into shock. And I left the vestibule and I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what street I was on, so I had to run up. I ran up Wheeler Avenue, and I didn't know it was Wheeler Avenue at the time. I ran up as far as I could to see the street sign, and then I ran back towards the vestibule, and I seen an address. All I could see was 1159, and then I got on the radio and requested help.
Kenny had gone into the vestibule. Sean apparently went in, and Eddie started going up the stairs. I stayed at the bottom. I heard someone saying, where's the fucking gun? Where's the fucking gun? Then I see Kenny run out. I was just staying at the bottom of the steps. I can't believe there was no gun.
Someone grabbed me by my shoulder and said, come on, Sean, we gotta go. There's nothing we can do.
I'm a retired detective. The reason why I produced this show is everyone always come up to me and ask me, Bo, how could 41 shots be fired into an unarmed man? I hope tonight, after dissecting this and seeing what happened that night, we can understand the terrible tragedy that occurred. I hope the community can start to heal with the police in New York City and around this country and realize that accidents can occur. And we hope that these accidents never occur again. And I hope you respect the law, and the law will respect you.